Hey, hi, and hello. I am Troy the Art Boy, and today I'm going to be designing yet another unconfirmed experiment from Lilo and Stitch, the series. So I'm back for episode 2. Not to brag, but in my last video, I talked about recording my next video, and that is me right now. I just got done recording the last one, so I am on something of a roll right now, so we'll see how this goes. I'm a little sick, so I keep having to stop to drink water and cough and sneeze. So bear with me. It's a struggle out here. If my voice sounds a little bit different, that's why. But um yeah, let's get into this video. So for the uninitiated, I've been working on this project for a couple of years now, and I've been doing that with a now good friend of mine. Their account's name is Lilo's Library over on Instagram. And basically, I started off by making these Lilo and Stitch Pokemon fusions, which I love doing. I still love doing it, but I really love doing it then. And it got me a little bit of attention online. And he found me and he reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in designing each and every unconfirmed Lilo and Stitch experiment as a fun little fan art project. And absolutely, I would. So we've been working on this ever since. And on his Instagram, he and I work to, like I said, design them all, but also to sort of figure out where they fit in the canon more broadly. So we will come up with things like episode synopses and why Jemba created these experiments and just a lot. And it's so much fun. I've never been a part of a fan project like this before. And I will also say this is sort of a wider community-based project. There are a lot of extremely talented Lilo and Stitch fan artists, and I have reached out and talked to so many of them, most of which almost all of which have been, just so kind and so nice. There are maybe a couple notable exceptions, which I won't get into that right now because it's not really relevant, but for the most part, so nice and so loving and kind, creative, talented beyond belief. So I've been working with them to make this a larger fan art project, right? So, um I'm allowed to do pretty much whatever I want for the designs. I have essentially free creative reign. However, there are limitations sort of built into the canon more broadly. So, first and foremost, all the names are provided for me. They came from the end credits of Leroy and Stitch the movie. And for the functions, I have to get a little bit creative, but they are all split up into sections based on their number. So, as a for instance, the first 100 experiments are all categorized as being household helpers. These are essentially Jemba's prototypes. He was still sort of figuring out what to do and how to do things. So, a lot of them aren't very dangerous, or at least not super dangerous, generally speaking, compared to some of their later cousins in the lineup, if that makes sense. So, with that being said, today's cousin is number 055, Snarfhonk. So when I hear that, I don't really know what to think of it because Snarfhonk isn't like that's not a thing. So I had to get sort of creative here. And I decided, which I've done this before too, and I always love it, but I decided to make it sort of an onomatopoeia. So Snarfhonk would create these noises. It won't necessarily sound exactly like the word snarfhonk, but you get the point. It's a sound, right? This experiment makes a lot of sounds. So for the more creative design aspects here, I was sort of stumped. I wanted them to have an instrument sort of built into their design somehow. Maybe it would be like a flute for their tail or something, but I wasn't sure. I've done a couple experiments, or I haven't, but there have been a couple different noise-based experiments. I have done one with twang, and there are other experiments out there where they make noises, right? Things like fibber, as a for instance, or sample. So I wanted to do something that was completely different, but also it felt cohesive to the wider world of Lilo and Stitch. So I went with an experiment based off of an Earth seahorse. and his uh, nose area, I don't know, I think it's a nose. I don't maybe it's a mouth, I don't know, is, sort of like a trumpet. So this little guy that just makes a lot of loud noises, and the goal initially for Jumbo when he created this experiment was to create this cousin who created this soft, beautiful, angelic music. However, he used DNA from an Earth seahorse, and because of that, the music only really sounds correct underwater, which is an idea I got from one of the Harry Potter movies. I think it's The Goblet of Fire. There's like a mermaid trial coming up, and Harry Potter is in the like the bathroom area, and he has this device and it's like shrieking whenever he opens it, but then he learns if you put it under the water, it sounds much more beautiful and it's an actual message. So that is what I wanted to base this cousin off of here, and I think it's a lot of fun. And initially I was sort of torn by having Jumba already have like known about Earth and either been to Earth or maybe had a team of people get DNA from an Earth species, because, I don't know, I kinda like the idea of the first time he really does anything Earth related, it had to do with the first movie, right? But in canon, Jumba finds DNA from all over the galaxy, and he uses that DNA to create his experiments. So, it only stands to reason that he could have came to Earth or again had acquired DNA from an Earth animal and turned it into one of his experiments as well. And yeah, that's sort of how we got this. I also based the design off of, so there's a seahorse in The Little Mermaid. It's like this little orange guy, and I've always really liked the way he looks growing up, and that is one of my favorite movies. So what I ended up doing was I sort of took his color palette, which is like orange, yellow, and pink, and I applied it here as well. So I didn't want this guy to look just like a regular seahorse, so I had to change it up a little bit, and I did things like gave him an antenna, of course, little ears, which seahorses don't have, and arms, a set of arms, but he's very dignified, so he keeps his arms sort of wrapped around his back, generally speaking. And yeah, and again, his mouth is like a trumpet, or I guess in my design, it's his nose. I think seahorses, I think that little tube thing is their mouth, but here it's his nose, he has a separate mouth, you know? Yeah, he'd be pretty small, much smaller than your average experiment. I like drawing small experiments. I don't know. I think it's so fun. I like when they're little pocket-sized creatures. He is mostly aquatic, but he won't die like a regular seahorse if you usually take him out of water. But he prefers to be in water, which makes sense given the fact that he functions best while underwater and given the fact that he comes from an aquatic species here on Earth. And not to spoil anything, but I like the idea of Jumba getting Earth DNA from a species so much that the next cousin is also Earth-based. I don't wanna I don't wanna give anything away, but I really, really like the next experiment. I love these aquatic cousins. There aren't that many of them in canon currently, so whenever I can add another water-based Lilo and Stitch experiment, I'm always gonna hop on that because I think it's just much needed, quite honestly, to give Sinker a bit of company. So, with that being said, here he is. I absolutely love what I came up with here. And it's so simple and it's so familiar, again, because it's based off an Earth-based creature, and I hope you guys like it too. So, Snarfhonk was activated when a pod falls into a decorative fountain outside of the Kokaya Town Aquarium, and he'd be introduced in an episode entitled Echoes of the Deep. And the episode synopsis would be as follows. When an odd honking sound bubbles up from decorative fountain, Pleakley sees it as the perfect touch for an upcoming mermaid costume contest. But the new discovery turns out to be a bit more than just fashionable. It's loud, unpredictable, and on the move. As the noise spreads across the town, Lilo and the gang must uncover the source's true nature before Harmony sinks beneath the surface. Snarfhonk's one true place would be at the Kokai's Aquarium Serenity exhibit. And let me know what you guys think. So before I let you guys go, I like to do this little thing in my videos where I shout out other artists in this space, other Lilo and Stitch fan artists, if you will. And normally I shout out the exact same artist, which is a man by the name of Sketch Lampoon. We have sort of intertwined paths in that we both worked with the same person. They worked together many years ago, but never finished, and that is sort of where I come in. They have given me permission to either use their designs in part or in full, as long as I credit them. So I like to do that. But I also like to just shout them out and kind of look at their designs for experiments because they sort of laid the groundwork for what I'm currently doing. And I think they deserve all the credit in the world. So without further ado, here is their design for experiment 055 Snarfhonk. I really like it. I don't really know what their function would be, but I like how it's just sort of weird because if I didn't go with the onomatopoeia sound inspirations, I probably would have went just weird. You know, the big head, the four eyes, the placement of the ears, the antenna, the little squid like hands. It's just a lot of fun. I really like it. I also really like blue. So whenever I see blue, I'm just always going to be on board. Yeah, really great design. 12 out of 10. So, if you guys enjoyed this video, or honestly, even if you didn't, be sure to like and subscribe. Every like and follow, it really, really does help. Even though I don't post very often and it's annoying, you guys hate me for it. It's okay because I don't know. Whenever I come back on and I see that I have a new comment from someone or a video has any views or I have a new subscriber, it really does encourage me to keep posting. And I've just been so busy lately that I just sort of took off my plate a lot of extra things. So that would be things like this, or I've been working on portrait drawings that I sort of took a step away from because it just takes so much time and energy that I just don't really have. So it's always just really nice to come here and see that like, oh, people actually care about what I'm doing and they're still here. They're still watching my content. I'm still working on audio stuff. I think it works the way I have it, so I'm gonna keep doing it. But it took me like a year to figure it out, and it's just been it's been quite the process. So I appreciate everyone being so patient with me. But yeah, no, like and subscribe, and if you guys like my stuff, go check me out over on Instagram as well. Also at Troy the Art Boy, and while you're over there, you can check out my partner in this project at Lilo's Library and get just a much more in-depth, more holistic view of each cousin. And I'm way ahead over on Instagram, so you guys can go check out upcoming experiments there as well if you want a bit of a sneak peek. Yeah, that is all I got from you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and you will see me in the next one. Bye.